Somewhere in your closet, there's a piece you've quietly stopped wearing. Not because it stopped fitting, not because it stopped flattering you, but because somewhere along the way, you absorbed a rule you never actually agreed to. A rule that said bold belongs to the young, and after a certain age, you play it safe. And once you notice that rule, you start seeing it everywhere, in the way we soften our colors, cover a little more, reach for the piece that won't draw a second look, all so nobody accuses us of trying too hard. But somewhere out there is a woman who never signed up for that rule at all, who dresses like the whole idea of too much was written for someone else. Nicole Kidman never got that memo. She dresses like visibility is her birthright, no matter what year it says on her birth certificate. And this year, she proved exactly why those old rules were never true to begin with, especially in the look that made some people genuinely uncomfortable, the one we're saving for last. Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Diana, and today we're breaking down the mindset behind some of Nicole Kidman's most talked about looks, the wearable lessons in confidence hiding underneath the outfits themselves. So let's get into it. Number 1 is the red sequin Chanel gown she wore to the 2026 Met Gala. Now, if you know anything about Nicole's red carpet history, you know she leans black more often than not. It's her comfort zone, her safe zone, the color she can always trust to look polished and pulled together. So when she showed up in a floor-length ruby gown with feathers at the cuffs and hips, it wasn't just a color change, it was a statement. She stepped away from what was expected of her and into something that demanded attention. And I love that about her. Because most women, once they find their color, they stay there forever. It feels safe. It feels like you. But Nicole shows us that your signature isn't a cage. It's just a starting point. If you're someone who's been wearing the same safe palette for years, black, navy, the same soft neutral over and over, this is your gentle nudge to try the one bold color you've been avoiding. You don't have to abandon what works. You just have to remember you're allowed to surprise yourself every once in a while, even in something as small as the color you reach for on an ordinary Tuesday. Number 2 is the Schiaparelli look she wore to Venice for her film Baby Girl, a structured cream corset top with painted polka dots paired with a black velvet skirt. And what struck me about this one watching it is how different it felt from the Met Gala look. And honestly, that's kind of the point, isn't it? That boldness doesn't have one single uniform. This one's interesting because it's not loud in the way sequins are loud. It's quiet. Architectural boldness. The structure of that top did something most women shy away from after 50. It emphasized shape instead of hiding it. And that's actually one of the threads we'll come back to later. This idea that structure and fit can say more about confidence than any amount of embellishment ever could. Most women, when they start feeling unsure about their bodies, reach for looser, softer, more forgiving shapes, something that skims and disguises rather than defines. Nicole reached for a corset. I know that might feel like a risk, and honestly, I never used to think structure was for me either. I always assumed it would feel restrictive rather than confident. But if you're not ready for something as structured as that, you could start smaller. A fitted blazer, a tailored waistband, something that says, I know exactly where my body is without going all the way there. Number 3, and this is one of my favorites, is the 2025 Met Gala, where she paired a custom Balenciaga gown, one that reportedly took over 700 hours to make, with a bold two-toned mullet haircut. This is the one people talked about for weeks. Because here's the thing, most of us think about boldness as something that lives in our clothes. Nicole reminded everyone that boldness can live in your hair, in your silhouette, in the whole picture of how you show up. She didn't just change an outfit, she changed her entire presence for the night. And she committed to it fully, no half measures, no safety net. And that takes a different kind of courage, doesn't it? The willingness to let people see you completely differently than they expect, even for one evening. It's a reminder that reinvention doesn't have to be permanent to be powerful. Sometimes it's just about giving yourself permission to try on a different version of you and see how it feels. And I think that's something we forget as we get older, that trying something new doesn't have to mean committing to it forever. You can experiment, you can play, you can change your mind the following week, and none of that makes the experiment any less worth trying. Now, everything I've shown you so far, most women could work up the nerve to try eventually with a little time and encouragement, but the next two are different. These are the ones that get to the real reason Nicole Kidman dresses the way she does. And honestly, they're the ones that changed how I think about getting dressed at all. Number 4 takes us back to the 2018 Oscars, where Nicole wore a blue Armani Privé gown that she's actually named as her favorite look of her entire career. She wrote about it herself for Harper's Bazaar, saying that no dress has ever changed her life the way marrying her husband or having her children did, but that wearing couture still carries a kind of fairy tale quality, a glorious little sidebar to everything else. And I think that's such an important distinction. She's not saying the dress matters more than her life, she's saying it's allowed to matter at all. So many of us feel guilty for caring about how we look, like it's shallow, like our energy should go elsewhere entirely toward our families or our work or everyone else's needs before our own. But Nicole shows us that joy in getting dressed and depth in your life aren't in competition with each other. You can care deeply about both, and neither one makes the other one smaller. This is the part where the real answer to everything else on this list starts to come into focus. And that brings us to the moment that really tells you who Nicole Kidman is underneath all of it. In 2022, she appeared on the cover of Vanity Fair in a micro Miu Miu set, and the backlash was immediate. People had opinions, plenty of them, about a woman in her 50s wearing something so cropped, so exposed, so far outside what they thought she was supposed to wear at her age. And here's what most women would have done. Quietly retreated, maybe issued a soft explanation, maybe just never worn anything like it again and let the moment fade quietly. Nicole did the opposite. She sat down with Baz Luhrmann from Vogue and basically said, "This is just who I am. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to commit to it completely." And yes, sometimes it's going to work and sometimes it isn't. But she loves the idea of being bold and refusing to fit into a box. Sit with that for a second. She wasn't defending the outfit. She was defending her might to take up space exactly as she is, without asking permission first. That's not vanity, that's self-respect. And I think that's the real lesson underneath every single look on this list. The color, the structure, the hair, the couture, all of it is really just Nicole practicing the same quiet act of defiance over and over, the refusal to become invisible just because she got older. Because the truth is, visibility was never about being the loudest person in the room. It was about refusing to shrink, refusing to let a number on a birthday certificate decide what she was allowed to wear, or how much space she was allowed to take up. And I think that's the part that hits closest to home for a lot of us, because the fear underneath all of this was never really about clothes at all. It was about disappearing, about waking up one day and realizing the world had quietly stopped seeing you. Nicole's whole approach is a rejection of that fear, over and over, one bold choice at a time. That woman who shows up looking exactly like herself, no apologies, no explanations, commanding a room without seeming to try at all, she's not doing anything you couldn't do. She's just decided that getting smaller was never an option. So the question I'll leave you with is this. What's the one piece you've been putting back in your closet because you were worried it was too much? And what would happen to tomorrow you actually wore it? Next week, we're staying on this theme of fearless dressing, but we're looking at a woman whose whole approach couldn't be more different, someone who built an entire reputation on restraint instead of boldness. And honestly, the contrast is going to surprise you. All right, everyone, that is all I have for Nicole Kidman's boldest style moments. I hope you found this video helpful and maybe even a little inspiring. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. I'd love to know in the comments which one of these 5 looks would you actually try yourself. Be sure to follow us, and as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.